What's up, YouTube? Do you feel lucky here? Bringing you a little bit of a special video. I don't know if some of you guys saw, but they did like a survey for the top 100 Pokemon in Japan. And you know, I saw some people go over to the top 10, and I was like, I started thinking like, okay, now if I had to make a my top 10 favorite Pokemon list, what would it be? And then I started sitting there thinking, I'm like, that's really hard. So I went and did it. It actually took me quite a bit of time to actually sit there and think. There's a lot of Pokemon that I wanted to put in there, and it's really honestly hard. There's like almost 700 now. There's probably going to be over 700 once 7th gen releases. So I figured, you know what, right now I'm going to do a top 10. I mean, I might have to revise it after 7th gen, who knows. But as of right now, these are my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Granted, there are some that I definitely would want to be in there, and I'll add in some, I'll mention some honorable mentions or some things like, okay, this Pokemon might have been here because it was this type in between this one and this one on this kind of type in, or whatever you want to, however you want to put it. But without further ado, let's jump on into this. All right, number 10. Number 10 is Porygon Z. Now, Porygon Z is actually a new Pokemon to this list. It's actually, because of this channel is kind of why he's on this list, or it's on this list because it doesn't have a gender, whatever. It's because of the Platinum Nuzlocke that I did. I had a Porygon Z named Vision on the team, and he was a powerhouse, and he made it all the way through the whole Nuzlocke. Spoilers. But honestly, he's a monstrous special attacker. He's amazing, and I've actually been using him on some competitive battling lately, and I'm actually a big fan. And I never was, Porygon was always okay, but I never really used it because Porygon was always so hard to use in Let's Plays. Like, it's really hard to obtain a Porygon. Like in Gen 1, you had to go through the game corner, and it's like, who wants to spend that much time to get all those goddamn coins? Nobody. Seriously, nobody wants to do that. Anyways, moving on to number 9. Number 9 for my list is Altaria. A little bit different. I don't know, I actually can't explain Altaria. I've always liked Altaria though. It's one of my favorite dragon types. Granted, there is one that is higher on this list, but it is one of my favorite dragon types. I don't know, Gen 3 has always held like a little special place in my heart for some reason. I think it was just because it was like, I was just at that age where I really remember it vividly, and I actually had other people in school that I played with and like traded, and I don't know, it was just for some reason it held a special place in my heart. And Altaria is a Gen 3 Pokemon, and especially it's actually the only Pokemon that actually gets a fairy type in on this list because of its Mega Evolution. And I don't know, I just really think that, really solidifies it too, is that Dragon Fairy is just so unique and cool, like what no other Pokemon has that in the Mega. So I mean, I really hope they don't get rid of Mega Evolution in 7th Gen, which it's a possibility, but it's looking like that right now. I don't know, but for that reason, Altaria makes it on my list. Now, number 8. Number 8 is Gyarados. This is the first of like 3 Gen 1 Pokemon on my list. Now, the first Pokemon game I ever played was Yellow. This will come into play later on too. But I always remember fishing. The one place that I always went to go look in Yellow for Gyarados or a Magikarp was in Fuchsia City. If you guys remember, there's the house. I don't know if it was the house where there's a rare candy. I don't know if it's where I think it's a warden's house. Maybe not. I can't remember exactly, but you could go out back and there was like a little pond that you could go fish in. I always remember going into that and fishing into that lake for either a Magikarp or a Gyarados. I don't know if Gyarados popped up in Yellow. I feel like they did, but I'm not positive. A very long time since I've played Yellow. But at least a higher level Magikarp maybe, because you could easily evolve it into Gyarados, because I always wanted a Gyarados on my team, because normally, well, I guess Yellow you had all 3 starters, but I mean, I was always, Charizard was always my, one that I picked for my starters, but I always wanted a Gyarados, so I did that. Gyarados has always held kind of a special place, and I mean, I always remember the red Gyarados in the lake in Johto, and it was always just a cool Pokemon. I actually really remember the episode of the anime where Team Rocket has the Magikarp and they piss it off and it evolves and like completely destroys them when it evolves into Gyarados. Either way, but yeah, Gyarados just has always been one that's always kind of been there, and I've always liked it. So that's why Gyarados is number 8. Now, number 7. Number 7 is Roserade. I can't explain why, but I like Roserade. It's actually, I shouldn't say I've always liked Roserade. Definitely more recently, more when I've started using it, battling, and I played through one of the games and I caught either a Roselia or I got a Roserade somehow and I played with it. I really grew attached to it. And it definitely has become one of my favorite grass types, and if not my favorite grass type. There's one that's other that could be, but for some reason it's just always, especially shiny Roserade is amazing. The black and purple flower, like, that is sick. That is one of the coolest things ever. And it's just kind of like elegant but badass and cool Pokemon. I don't know, but Roserade definitely will always probably earn a place on my top 10 list. That's for sure. And I don't know, it's just, I can't really explain it. I just really like Roserade. It's just the design and everything about it. It's just, and it's such a bulky, especially defensive bulky Pokemon. You wouldn't expect it, and for some reason it just fits, and I really like it. So yeah, number 7 is definitely Roserade. Now number 6 is a disclaimer. I probably should have done this before the video. Number 6 is Jolteon. Now, before I did this list, I kind of gave myself a couple sets of rules too. One is I can only have one evolution, and 2, only one starter on this entire list. Because if I didn't do that, my whole list could be starters. I mean, most of my list could be starters. Granted, I mean, because there are all a lot of cool starters and a lot that I really like. So, with that, I made that stipulation, and also the stipulation no legends. So there's no legends on this list. I probably should have done this before the video, but oh well, got to Jolteon, thought about it, here we are. Now, Jolteon is just definitely my favorite evolution. It was always the one I gravitated towards when you got your EV in whatever game you got. You get Thunderstone, you evolve it. Granted, in 2nd gen, I was always a fan of getting EV and evolving it to either Umbreon or Espeon, because it was the new evolutions. It was their, Dark and a Psychic type. That was always cool. But I always liked Jolteon. Even now, when I play through games and I get an EV, I'm like, okay, what do I want? You know what? I don't have an Electric type. Jolteon it is. Don't get me wrong, I like every evolution. Every evolution is great. Eevee's a great Pokemon. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I definitely think, but Jolteon is definitely my number 1. It's always been kind of one that's, I've always gravitated towards. If I had a choice, especially if I need Electric type on my team, and I have an Eevee, okay, that's what that's going to turn into, is a Jolteon. Normally, seems to be the perfect place. It actually probably is my favorite Electric Pokemon. Granted, I mean, there's another one, and that could be one of my first honorable mentions too, is another Pokemon that is I had on the list, but I didn't pick because I didn't want to. Well, it's actually very close, but he's probably in the in the top 15, is Luxray. When 4th gen released and I saw Luxray or saw Shinx, I loved that Pokemon, and that was definitely one that was very close to getting on this list. It just didn't. I chose Jolteon, and it kind of didn't fit. It was there, but it's very close. Either way, moving from number 6 to number 5. Number 5 is one that actually holds a really special place to me because it's Pidgeot. Now, some people are like, Pidgeot, really? That's on your top 10 Pokemon? Hear me out. Like I said before, Yellow was my first Pokemon game I ever played, and I played the hell out of Yellow. I played that so much. I beat the Elite Four. I had everything. I used to go and just grind in Cerulean Cave, do whatever. I did. I don't know what I did, but I played it. I constantly played it. And I always had a Pidgeotto, and then Pidgeot on my team. And this Pidgeot is on my team, learned Sky Attack. The thing was a monster. I kept using it over and over again. And it ended up being the first Pokemon that I raised to level 100. Pidgeot was the first level 100 Pokemon that I ever raised myself. I grinded the thing all the way up there by battling it, whatever. I mean, this is actually before I even knew about Game Sharks or anything like that, where you could cheat, get rare candies, or any glitches or anything like that. But, yeah, so Pidgeot is the first Pokemon I ever hit level 100 with, legitimately. So that's why it's on my list. And it was just always, since then, has held a special place on my list just because of that reason. And for some reason, I just always liked it, and I used it. I actually always liked it. I mean, when I was a kid, I watched the anime, and I was always so disappointed when Ash finally evolved Pidgeotto into Pidgeot, and then just said, okay, yeah, you go, leave it. And that's probably one of the first times that I'm like, okay, fuck this. I don't like this shit anymore. Why am I watching this anime? Why would you give away such an amazing Pokemon, Ash? And it's just that's one of the very reasons. But and especially now, even added on to Pidgeot is his Mega Evolution. No Guard Pidgeot is amazing. No Guard Mega Pidgeot, that thing is so cool. And just the design, it's still, it doesn't change much, but it just accentuates its features perfectly, and I love it. So definitely always will hold. That's another Pokemon that will always hold part of my list is Pidgeot. Now, number 4. Number 4 is Chandelure. This is another one that was tough for me because there was another Pokemon that I actually wanted to be on the list that I kind of chose Chandelure over, and is Gengar. Now, Gengar, definitely a Pokemon that's always going to be one of my favorites, just didn't make this top 10 list. I mean, granted, if I made this list yesterday or made it tomorrow, this could be totally different, but Chandelure is always one of my favorite. I don't know why. It's such a weird thing. It's a living Chandelure. It's like a possessed Chandelure. Chandelier. I can't speak, apparently, but yeah. So I don't know why, but it's just such a cool Pokemon, and I think it's just I don't know why. It's 5th gen. You find it. The little Litwick is kind of cute, and then you get it. It turns into a Lampent. And then it turns into Chandelure, and it's just like, the design, like the black and purple flames, and then I love a shiny Chandelure too, where the black with the red, I always name it Firestorm. It just looks so cool. I think it's just purely a design thing for me for Chandelure. I just like the design, I like the moves, I like how I just like its moves, I like its typing too, a ghost fire type. It's just kind of awesome. I don't know. I think purely Chandelure is just design, and I like it, and I can't really explain why. It's always going to be there, and I always like it. So I mean, that's it. Granted, that's it. This is, like I said, this is a very hard list to do, and that's one of the ones that made it on there. Now, for number 3. Number 3 is one that is always going to be on my list because it's just a badass Pokemon, and it's another kind of one that I didn't set this rule for myself, but I only did one pseudo legendary. And number 3 is Hydreigon, as I'm sure you guys already see. Hydreigon is just an amazingly designed Pokemon. I don't care what anybody says. The typing, the way it looks, it's just so cool. A dark dragon type like that. It's the only one too. Like, that is such a sick thing. Like, I love Hydreigon. There's no doubt about it. Definitely my favorite pseudo. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a lot of the other pseudo legendaries, but I love Hydreigon. Hydreigon is hands down my favorite pseudo from all the gens, and it will always get a place on my list, and it's just awesome. So that's definitely, I can't really explain. I mean, especially even shiny, and there's a lot of things too I like. Designs about Pokemon, as you can probably see by the layout too. I've been really, I mean, most of my stuff, as you can see, I have like black and green, but as of late, I have a thing for black and purple, or just purple itself for whatever reason, and I like a lot of Pokemon with purple in their design. And there's a couple on my list that have either, whether it's their shinies or their normal forms, that have like that purple and accentuates it. It just looks really cool. And Hydreigon just fits that perfectly. And even its shiny form with the green purple, like, that's 2 of my favorite colors in one Pokemon. I just can't. So either way, Hydreigon, definitely one of my favorites, and just an amazing typing, and he's just such a cool Pokemon. I really hope they don't get rid of Megas, and I hope they give him a Mega, and I hope they give him more heads, and that would just be crazy. Anyways, moving on to number 2. Number 2 is the one starter that I picked on my list. This was very, very hard. I like a lot of starters. For the one starter that I set for myself, I was really debating between 2 of them. And these are definitely my top 2. And it was either this one, which is Infernape, which is my number 2 Pokemon, or it was Sceptile. And Sceptile could easily take the number 2 spot away from Infernape on a different day. I was going really hard between the two, and I kind of just levitated towards Infernape. I don't know why. I've always liked it. Just like, and I've actually, as of more recently, 4th gen has kind of really come back up as to one of my favorite gens. I never really thought of it as one of my favorite generations, but the more I played it and the more I thought about the Pokemon they added, more of the designs of the different Pokemon in there, definitely started to become one of my more favorite gens, and it definitely has some of the best starters in my opinion too, because I love Infernape, I love Empoleon, and I love Torterra. They're all really cool designs. And actually, I realized something the other day. 2 of the 3 starter sets in 4th gen have unique typings. So Torterra is the only grass ground type, and Empoleon is the only water steel type. I never realized that, and I was like, wow, that's actually really, really cool. I kind of hope they do that for 6th gen too, or 6th gen, 7th gen was where they give a unique type into some of the starters. Like I hope Litten's Final Evolution has something unique, so there's a unique fire starter, and then maybe like a Grass Flying's not going to be unique, but I mean maybe Poplio can have something. I think the water fight. I'm getting off topic here, but Infernape. Infernape has always been just one of my favorite starters, hands down. It was, like I said, between that and Sceptile, 2 of my favorite starters. And granted, I mean I like almost all the starters, so it's really hard. It's really hard to say, oh yeah, this is my favorite starter. But Infernape 4th gen, I always, don't get me wrong, I like Piplup, I like Turtwig, but I always pick Chimchar. I just like Chimchar. I like the design, and actually I think it's partially because I think 4th gen of the anime was one of the better ones because Ash actually evolved most of his Pokemon miraculously. And I don't know, Infernape was just so cool because it just, when it got that Blaze ability, when it like almost like it went Super Saiyan, I think that's what kind of goes. I always name my Infernapes Goku, and it just reminds me of Goku because it's just like a fighting monkey, and that's exactly what Goku was based off of. So I don't know. But Infernape is definitely my number 2 Pokemon, and it definitely will always hold one of my favorite Pokemon. Now, before I go to number 1, I had some honorable mentions. I already mentioned 2 of them, which was, I talked about Gengar, I talked about Luxray, always, on there. And I've got, I got 2 other ones, and then I already talked about with the other starters. But I've got, the other one is Volcarona was really close to making my list. I always liked the design, I like the fire bug type. Just don't know, it was tough, really, really tough to keep that off there. And the next one is Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum is my favorite fossil Pokemon, hands down. I've been waiting for T-Rex since Gen 1 and finally got it, and it's there. So that's the other one. And obviously like I said, all the starters. I got a lot of starters. Like I said, Sceptile's on there. Obviously Charizard's on there. Charizard will always hold a place in my heart. And then I like Greninja. And for Alligator's definitely another one. And actually, more recently, too, is Superior from 5th gen. That's another starter that I've really gravitated towards. But now, speaking of 5th gen, my number 1 Pokemon. Don't know why. I actually can't. I like the design. I like how he's portrayed. Number 1 is Crocodile. Crocodile, I've actually kind of always said Crocodile is my favorite Pokemon for a long time now. 1, I love the design. 2, I love the type, and I love the dark brown type. That's actually just sick. I've always, and 5th gen, I always caught a Crocodile was on my team. Like that was one of the first time I ever played through Black and White. I had a Crocodile on my team, and it definitely, I think it actually overshadowed the Samurott that I had on my team, which was a starter. Because I always thought Asha was my favorite, but I kind of gravitated towards Snivy. Off topic, but he kind of stole the show for me in 5th gen because I didn't, unfortunately. I don't think I ever caught a Hydreigon on my first playthrough as like on my actual team, but I did have the Crocodile, and the Crocodile, I just love the type, and I love the moveset. I love the even in the anime, I love the personality that they give Crocodile. He's just such a badass, and I don't know, I just love the design. I love that, and he will definitely probably always be at least in the top 3 of my favorite Pokemon. Like I said, on a different day, this list could go differently, but I think right now, in this point right now, Crocodile definitely holds number 1 for me. But like I said, this is a really hard list to do, and there's a lot of Pokemon that I could put on there that I haven't even thought about mentioning, and so, but Crocodile is my number 1 Pokemon. Now, all that said, I'd really like to know what your guys' top 10. Like, trust me, I would love to hear this from your guys. It's really hard if you sit down there and think like, man, oh yeah, this one, then you're like, oh, but this one, and then this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. It's like you start thinking about ones like, oh crap, I am at like 25 different Pokemon, and I don't know which ones to put in the top 10, and it's crazy. So I mean, like I said, I set myself some rules. Like I said, only 1 starter, 1 evolution, no legends, and I think that was about it. And I kind of, which I didn't really follow. Well, I said 1 pseudo, and I didn't really say that to myself, but I kind of did that. And then I tried, which I didn't, was try to have only 1 of every type, but I definitely didn't follow that because I got a couple same type ins, but it's kind of hard not to because it's just something I really, really like. But anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' top 10 and see what down below in the comments, see what you guys say, because I just saw that article of the top 100 in Japan. I was like, man, if I had to pick a top 10. because it's just like that'd be so hard. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna go through it and go over it, just because something I'm gonna upload to the channel just for the hell of it. But either way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you did. Like the video if you want to see more stuff like this, top 10s, maybe some top 5s, different things. I have some ideas. I don't know if I want to start doing that on the channel, but this is for sure one video I wanted to do. But either way, guys, subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon. I've got the Digimon or Fire Red Digimon hack right now going on. And I got a bunch of other stuff games on the channel. I got really cool stuff. And I got plenty of other stuff planned this year. Obviously, I'm going to do some Sun and Moon when the game comes out. Like, I'm really excited for that. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you did. Let me know your top 10 down below. And remember, guys, stay lucky.